everyone. Welcome back to the Get Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, John, and I'm back with my colleague, Yvan Lamoureux, the CEO and founder of Crankworks. Yvan, it's so great to have you on board today.
No, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to the subject that we're about to talk about, dashboards.
It's going to be really interesting today as we kind of dive into how marketers prove their data and what they're doing, and sometimes demystify, but then also oftentimes maybe it gets a little bit more mystical than we expect. Before we jump in, remember to rate, subscribe, and share these episodes with your colleagues and business friends. And of course, we look forward to you always getting marketing in the digital space. So, Yvan, in the pre-show, we kind of chatted about how dashboards have a parallel to sports, like baseball and football. And I thought this was an interesting kind of analogy for our audience to think through. So tell me the sports analogy of how this works here for dashboards online.
Yeah, let's face it, people don't go to, say, baseball games or to football games because of the stats. But, if you've got an eager fan, they're willing to quote those stats to you till they're blue in the face if they work in their favor. Dashboards are like that. They're like these calculators or these systems that we put together something that we can trace to see the performance of players, to understand how the game went. But, we talk about leading indicators, we talk about lagging indicators, but at the end of the day, they're not really that exciting, but they do translate for us and substantiate what's happening. So they are important.
Well, I think that's a good introducing segue, right? Because I think as humans, we have an innate desire to track and measure, right? It's how we kind of define our spatial awareness. Obviously, in sports, we love to see when great sports figures achieve a certain statistical either anomaly or achievement. These are fascinating pieces that we pull out and obviously make up not only great trivia but also how we kind of measure performance. Ultimately, as marketers, and designers, advertisers, our goal is to drive consumer engagement and increase the performance of a business. I mean, I tell everyone that we work with at the end of the day, the bottom line is the bottom line, right? If our clients are not growing, if they're not achieving their goals, and we can't track and measure performance against that, then we're not helping them really achieve what they need and what's important to them, right? And what we need to do to prove out the value. So I think as we kind of look at how dashboards may help, there's so many out there, right? I mean, I think even somebody who maybe isn't in marketing has seen a minimum of 5, whether that's a couple for email, a couple for maybe social.
Good data, Grow, Tableau,
exactly.
Demo, Google Data Studio.
And even having maybe multiple video recording systems now. And I constantly hear from, everyone who likes Zoom better than Teams versus Google Hangout. I mean, even in that space, there's multiple competitors, right? So I guess a good place for us to start when talking about dashboards is maybe having a conversation with businesses and business owners about KPIs. What is it that they really want to track? So from our experience and from your experience, what are some of the areas that initially, before even choosing a dashboard, a business should be looking to track when it comes to marketing, advertising, and design?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, and it really depends on the type of business. I'll tell you right now that most dashboards cater to retailers. For more obscure businesses like research trials, which we do quite a bit of, dashboards, it's not enough to rank what is considered to be conversion. And conversion is basically some anticipated action. It could be the download of a PDF, the filling in of a form field. In research trials, we're going all the way to, did that person cross the threshold at the clinical site level? And that would be the equivalent to a retailer asking themselves, did someone come into the store? Right?
Sure.
Now, once that individual is through the store, through that threshold, whether you're a retailer or a research trial and you're a clinic, at the end of the day, it's up to the individuals there to carry that brand promise. But I'm not trying to avoid the question. It really does depend on the type of business that you are. Like click-through rate is not enough. You want to determine just what it is you want to measure before you start creating your dashboard. And you have to equate that to the type of business, or the type of yeah to the type of business you're doing. So I don't know. I'll leave it to you. Maybe you can further define, and then I'll just bridge off of
No,
there.
that makes absolute sense. And I think the question about what you want to track oftentimes is maybe where a number of, individuals in the marketing department, or when they're reporting to other departments, or, decision makers and key stakeholders in the company, can go off track if there isn't a defined goal, and
Right.
something that you like you said, in clinical trials, it's not necessarily a purchasing behavior or a click-through rate. It's, did someone complete a trial, how many, what does that look like against other competitive percentages. We need to know what we want to track before we can then build an effective dashboard to present data, right? It's a lens, and I think that was something that was taught to me years ago, is that dashboards should be a specific lens. You can use a super focus, you could use a wide. What you're looking to view and what you're looking to present to maybe other members of the team is based on and focused on how that lens, shines light into a certain area of the business. Does that, yeah,
Exactly. There's a structure to that, right? Like you have different heights. Like, is it the 3,000 foot view
mm-hmm,
for the C-suite? Or are we, more narrowed down to the middle of the business? Are we talking about how many shipments have left
right,
a certain, warehouse? Or is it strictly a dashboard for marketing, which is all about click-through rate and that funnel we talk about often? Like, how did the ads do vis-a-vis our clientele and our
mm-hmm,
audience? Are we seeing longer page times? Are
sure,
people spending more time on the page, right? And that's if you're after loyalty. I mean, like a lot of the social media advertising asks you up front, what is your goal?
mm-hmm,
Is it
yeah,
awareness, right? Is it click through? And that's basically, they're asking you to determine your funnel prior to engaging in their tool. And that's in order to provide you like all the key performance indicators they can. And the reality is, you've got to basically, let's say you're doing an awareness campaign. Facebook is one where you probably have about 20 results that you could easily cultivate across the board. But really, for your business, there's only 6 that really matter.
sure.
And it's to really focus on those 6 and figure out which ones those are.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's in our business when we're talking about digital advertising, and this connects so well to what you do on the the persona demographics building and audience engagement and customer journey. When we're working with a company, we need to know that funnel, and oftentimes either the business owner or maybe the individuals we're working with haven't truly defined that, or don't know. Now, marketing and advertising can be extremely helpful in helping you to answer those questions, but effective campaigns are built on knowing exactly who we want to reach, how much we want to reach them, what we want to sell to them. And ultimately, I always say that marketing and advertising is really sales. I mean, we're at the end of the day driving revenue, and that's our goal always overall. And sometimes working with companies that maybe that's not their goal, it needs to be, I would say, translated a little bit differently. So in the clinical trial space, sales might not be the metric for delivering product, but there's a delivery metric that's associated with that a dashboard can be effective in giving you that information to highlight areas of improvement. And I think that's what dashboards should really be
Yeah.
looking at as well.
And they have similarities, right? No matter the market, like what are the main traffic sources to the
Mm-hmm.
website? What is the, what is their increase in search for key terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those keywords. What does the marketing funnel look like? Like exactly what are the
Sure.
stages? And you can go so far as doing what is the buyer journey or the patient
Right.
journey.
And that's extremely helpful for, like I said, the decision makers, or even for individuals working on the ground, to make better decisions in optimizing that process. And again, as we talk about what a dashboard is supposed to do, and maybe some that we like, and some that we don't like, I think a lot of times dashboards all can kind of provide similar things. It depends on how you set them up and what you're trying to get them to achieve, which comes back again to how you help other individuals in the company either better understand and verify the work that you're doing, or to make better decisions in their department based on the feedback that you're giving them.
Right. And I mean, for us, one of our preferred tools, we can get right into that, is Google Data Studio. What
Mm-hmm.
we really enjoy about that is that, they give you kind of like these out of the can, like very, how can I put it, easily read displays, but they're really customizable. You can write your own code even.
Sure.
You can mash up a few to really give you the dashboard or the results you're looking for. But we can't do that until we have a process where
Mm-hmm.
we walk our clients,
Mm-hmm.
much like you do,
Mm-hmm.
through a series of questions. We get to know the business so that we can agree on what the KPI should look like. The dashboard is almost secondary, but the cool thing about dashboards is that it enhances visibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge time savings, and it in the end will produce better forecasting. Like, we can't always say that what happened yesterday is going to determine tomorrow. But let me tell you something. If this were the stock market, we'd be looking at past performance to see the value of our dollar tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's always the chance that we create the next big ad. Oh, my apologies. But and that ad's gonna, because of its creativity, will carry things forward, and you'll do even
Mm-hmm.
better. But it's that's a promise. That's not a guarantee.
No, but I like the point that you bring up there about, the past proving the future, or at least giving us a structure to move forward with that. I think, as marketers, as advertisers, that is always a key. We have to use, and even like I said, from a human perspective, we have to base our, forward decision making on experience of the past, right? It's not necessarily always going to be correct, but once we have an aggregation of data, which again, dashboards can help us see that and track that and measure that over time. Now, I love what you said about Google Data Studio, because we are big proponents of that. We love that. We think that's one of the best aggregation tools out there for understanding your website, your ads,
Highly customizable, right?
absolutely. You can bring different widgets in and obviously pull data in as necessary. But I also like the approach that it gives. That's very, it's very easy, I think, for individuals to jump into who don't have a huge amount of experience, because they do have some of those out of box opportunities. More advanced dashboards like Google Analytics, the Google Ads, platform itself, obviously are where you begin to structure the levels, right? If Google Data Studio gives you a 30,000 foot or gives you all the options, then breaking it down into each of these distinct, areas, allowing you to see a little bit more specific on the actual tool's performance. And those dashboards, again, can help with that. Another dashboard that we really love, that we use for, like you talked about, keyword metrics and search terms, is SEMrush, or SEMrush, as some people might mention.
Yeah.
I mean, they do just a tremendous amount of data aggregation on competitors, competitive research, keyword terms, what you look like in terms of domain authority.
And SEMrush has a certain level of automation that you
Sure.
can share with your clients.
Yeah.
That tool is usually out of reach for the small to mid-sized companies,
Mm-hmm.
but you can lend that tool, or its ability,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to determining a lot of things on the weekly, monthly. It's practically real time. It is real time if you're using it in its full capacity.
Absolutely. And as and I think that's one of the, it's one of the service areas and service benefits, I think, working with companies like ours, that small and medium-sized companies have the ability, not only for the expertise of the interpretation that we bring when using these tools every day to their internal teams or to their decision makers, but by working with companies like ours and through us, they have the access to these tools. And, I've yet to meet, anyone, or, any business owner that says, well, more data is not helpful for me. It's always going to be helpful. Now, whether it's used, interpreted, and then delivered properly, that's also where we can lend our expertise. But ultimately, having the data provides that visibility that you maybe didn't have previously, or maybe had an idea of, but weren't able to track over time. And I think that's one of the big value propositions for how we help our clients on a day-to-day basis.
And it keeps everybody in the company honest.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is, as you know, in our industry, we often have people come to us and it's that first interview. And, what is your goal is usually the first
yeah,
question we ask. And it's really, we're tempering the waters. We're trying to get a sense of where their thinking's at, what it is they want to achieve, where by when they'd like to be there. And if they say to you, I want to do $1 million worth of business, and then the next question has to be, well, how did you do last year? Well, we did, a couple of thousand. So yes, we can do $1 million worth of business, but it's probably going to take, a couple of years to get
sure,
there. It's a great mitigator, and what I mean, even internally, this happens, right? Like whether it's how much awareness you're creating for the brand, or just how much product you've sold. Like with a good dashboard, you're setting realistic goals, and those could be like a 15-20%
sure,
increase, and that would be very, it's likely achievable, but that's, you're getting in the range of everything going really well,
right.
but all of a sudden you can track sales, like efficient sales teams also have are tracking their, not only last year's goals and what they achieved, they're forecasting with that.
Absolutely.
So marketing, your marketing dashboard can dovetail into your sales dashboards or results, and start contributing to forecasting. But the medium-sized business struggles to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
usually the thing that we're helping them with when we talk about dashboards.
No, it's
But it's all about realistic goals.
no. I mean, I think that's extremely important. I think those realistic goals are something that we try to level set with clients, because we do find that advertising can be somewhat, I hate to use the term, but scary, right? Where you don't know what you're going to get back, and spending money, and sometimes with even, I've noticed this many different times, that there are some personal challenges that a lot of decision makers may have against platforms like Google or Facebook, from a perspective of, well, I'm just paying them and I don't know exactly what they're doing with the money, and maybe I'm going to reach the people or not. And to a certain extent, I understand that, right? But that's why we use these dashboards to present relevant data. The people, someone may say to me, well, can you guarantee someone's going to, buy the product or pick up the phone? And I say, no, I can't. I can say,
No one can motivate that directly.
yeah,
I mean, you have to be right next to the guy, holding him by the arm, taking him through the store.
right. But I can say, but I can definitely guarantee, based on not only the information that these, the dashboards and obviously the predictive analysis that tools like Facebook and Google give us from an advertising perspective, and other larger streaming networks like YouTube and Hulu, et cetera, which are all kind of part of the same network. We can say, look, this is the number of individuals who've engaged with either competitors like yours or make these types of buying decisions. Will they buy your product? Will they engage? We can't guarantee that, but we have a high likelihood. I mean, I always say, we're 80-90% sure that these are the right folks, and we make those.
The goal of branding has always been to be, when the purchaser is ready to buy, to be one of the 5 brands in their mind,
Yes.
because that's about all they can carry, right? We all have gray matter, and let's face it, soap isn't that interesting, but I know Tide and Cascade
Yep.
are 2 of the brands I'm going to look at when I'm going to make that purchase. And then I'm going to look at price potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's been a while since I played with those brands or on, in that work. But I'll just tell you that that's the goal of advertising, is to be one of those choices. It doesn't guarantee, just because we can measure it today. Now, in the past, if we dialed it back 40 years ago and all we had was TV, radio,
Right.
and print, we tried to measure the results. And the closest measurement tool we had at that time was a coupon.
Exactly.
Nowadays, we can measure all types of activity and how people actually feel about, and
Mm-hmm.
we can measure brand loyalty, for instance, at a level we never could before. But advertising is never a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, if neither is investing in the markets, but we know if we don't do it, right? You're no further ahead,
Right.
right? Okay. And certain investments are better for you depending on where you are financially than others. Some are more guaranteed than others. But when I say more guaranteed, it's I use that word with reservation. It's produced results in the past,
Yes.
but who knows? You have to tune it to your particular flavor of ice cream.
I really really love that point there, because you're absolutely right. And I think this goes into mitigating risk, right? And we could probably have a whole show on that one as well. But I think mitigating risk when it comes to advertising, and we always say first, well, if you don't do it, you got none, right? And your competitors, who we can show you are certainly advertising, you're at least not even competing with them. Now once you start to get in the game, like you said, that's where, now these dashboards, because I want to keep pulling that through, this can help to give you the confidence with understanding where your spend is going and how effective that spend is. And that's really our goal. And in your side, working with companies on optimizing these processes internally, optimizing their visual presence online, etc., and what we do to deliver that message in conjunction with some of those things that you've built per se for a client. We want to help them be more effective and optimize that spend and delivery, and make sure that they're spending the money effectively.
What's great about dashboards too is like they work on fundamentally different levels. For the small business, it permits you a good understanding of everything that's going on, especially in your marketing down to your deliverables, whether it's a service or a product. On the medium-sized business, this ability to serve that dashboard in the cloud, as it were,
Sure.
permits you to do what's this mastermind thinking. You become beyond one person. A lot of medium-sized business owners struggle with that. They want to scale their business. Well, in order to scale, they got to get beyond themselves, right? And they have to start trusting other team members in a way that they may not be accustomed to as an entrepreneur. Setting up these dashboards makes, and having them served up to the cloud, makes everything transparent to everybody who needs to know, and keeps everybody honest. And that owner has a better sense of what it is that's going on, how it is it's doing, and where it is they're going. For ultimately corporate or large scale companies, dashboards permit the ability for the small groups to better communicate and only focus on what's most important to them.
That's an excellent point. I love that you kind of brought that back to accountability. And I wonder, today, I wonder if you can give as we kind of wrap up today, I wonder if you can give the audience a couple of key takeaways when it comes to how they might use dashboards more effectively. And I like that point on accountability there.
Yeah. I think that if you're going to consider a dashboard, it's about the KPIs. So if you're given a plethora of KPIs, you really want to whittle them down for each area of the business to 3 to 5, manageable. Okay. And sometimes that's going to take some doing. Like you have to experiment. You might run a campaign or you might run your dashboard for 3 months, for instance, and see how those measurables did for you, if they're actually giving you the feedback you want. And you can do what you need. We call it pivoting. You may have to change up a few of the KPIs to better represent what you're trying to track there. But, do this iterative approach, but consider that a dashboard, you have to consider the cycle of your business. If it's a year, a calendar year, great. It could be shorter. It could be 6 months. But that's, you have to go through a full cycle to fine tune it.
I really appreciate you sharing those takeaways, and obviously I encourage anyone in business to start using these dashboards, even if you don't work with a company like ours. Google's Data Studio, Google, the Google Analytics, other pieces of information are available and free for you to use. It's the interpretation that we certainly help with, but these are available items for any business owner to start diving into and check out. And obviously, that's what we're here to help you understand and determine that, better KPIs with the data. But Yvan, thank you so much for hopping on board today to talk about this. This was a great conversation.
No, again, thanks for having me. It's always great to talk marketing with other leaders in the industry.
And I want to thank you, the audience, again as well for taking some time to chat with us today and learn a little bit more. I certainly did. I know that dashboards are a key and integral for how we display value to clients, and I strongly encourage anyone here in the marketing field or anyone who's a business owner listening to start diving in, maybe to even take a step back and think about what your KPIs are and what you want your dashboards to present to you so that you have better understanding of how to optimize your business. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share the videos. Obviously, you can get in touch with Yvan and I in the comments section below. Of course, if you love the conversation, we always appreciate the tip on Ko-Fi. Obviously, like I said last time, that keeps Yvan and I caffeinated to have more of these conversations early in the morning. And check out the comments section below if you have any questions and drop us some information there. I look forward to seeing you all get marketing in the digital space.